All right, let's talk about one of the biggest hurdles for anyone learning Arabic, especially if you speak Urdu: subject-verb agreement. It seems like it should be straightforward, but Arabic has this little secret, this one rule that once you get it, makes everything else just click into place. So, let's dive in.
First, let me ask you a question. Can just one word be a complete sentence? I mean, in English, you can say stop, and that works. But in Arabic, the answer is yes on a whole other level. A single verb can tell a whole story: who did something and what they did. How? Well, that's the secret we're about to unlock.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with this wild idea that every verb is already a sentence. Then we'll see what happens when the subject actually shows up in the sentence. That's going to lead us straight to what I call the golden rule. After that, we'll touch on how word order can change everything, look at a few exceptions, and then wrap it all up with the one key idea that will help you nail this for good.
Okay, first things first. This is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about today. You have to understand that in Arabic, every single verb is already a complete sentence. Why? Because it's hiding its subject inside.
This hidden subject is called a Damir Poshida, which literally means a hidden pronoun. The best way to think about it is that the pronoun is just baked right into the verb's DNA. So when you see a word like Zahaba, it doesn't just mean went. It's a full thought. He went. That he is the hidden pronoun, and it's always there, doing the job of the subject.
And check out this table. It makes it super clear. Look at dakhala. It has a hidden he. But if you just change the verb's form to dakhalu, the hidden subject is now they. Change it to katabti, and suddenly the subject is you, but specifically feminine. And with dakhalna, the hidden pronoun is we. Every single one of these is a complete, grammatically perfect sentence all by itself.
Okay, so that all makes sense when the subject is just a pronoun like he or we. But what happens when we want to get specific? What if we want to say who entered, like the teacher entered or the students entered? Well, this is where things get really, really interesting.
So when we add that specific noun, it's called an ism zahir, an apparent noun. This noun shows up after the verb, and it basically tells the hidden pronoun, hey, I got this. It takes over the job of being the subject. And when that switch happens, something really cool and kind of counterintuitive happens to the verb itself.
Now, this slide right here, this is the aha moment. This is the whole secret in one place. On the left, when the subject is hidden, they entered uses the plural verb, dakhalu. Makes sense, right? But now look to the right. When we add the apparent subject, al-mu'allimun, the teachers, which is plural, the verb suddenly flips back to its singular form, dakhala. That's it. A singular verb with a plural subject. That is the secret rule that trips everyone up.
So why on earth does it do that? Well, it's all because of one simple, beautiful rule. This is what I like to call the golden rule of Arabic verbs, at least when they come before the subject.
And here it is, simple as that. If the subject is apparent, the verb is always singular. That's the whole thing. The second you name the doer of the action after the verb, you can totally forget about plural or dual verb forms. You just use the singular. It actually makes things so much easier once you know the rule. Let's see it in action here with some masculine subjects. If one teacher enters, it's dakhala al-muallimu. If two teachers enter, it's still dakhala al-mualliman. And if a whole bunch of teachers enter, it's still dakhala al-muallimuna. See that? The verb dakhala doesn't change at all. It just stays singular no matter how many people we're talking about. And it's the exact same logic for feminine subjects. The only thing the verb cares about is matching the gender. So for a female teacher, we use the singular feminine verb, katabat. And it doesn't matter if it's one teacher, two teachers, or 100 teachers, the verb stays katabat. It's always singular feminine. The number of the subject just becomes irrelevant to the verb. So here's the bottom line, the most important takeaway. When you have an apparent subject that comes after the verb, your job as a student of Arabic just got a whole lot easier. You don't have to worry about the subject's number anymore when picking your verb. All you do is match the gender. Masculine subject, singular masculine verb. Feminine subject, singular feminine verb. That's it. Now, just when you think you've finally got it all figured out, Arabic throws in one more little twist. Everything we've talked about so far works for a specific sentence type, the verbal sentence, or Jumla Fi'liyah, where the verb comes first. But what happens if we flip it and put the noun first?
This slide shows why word order is king in Arabic. Look at the left. That's our verbal sentence. Dakhala al-muallimun. Verb comes first, so it follows our golden rule and stays singular. Easy. But now look at the right. This is a nominal sentence, a Jumla Ismiyah, because it starts with the noun. Al-muallimuna dakhalu. Here, the teachers is our main topic, and the verb, they entered, is the news about them. In this structure, the golden rule is off, and the verb has to fully agree with the subject in both number and gender. So dakhalu is plural because al-muallimuna is plural.
Okay, so what if our subject does more than one thing? For example, the girls succeeded and they rejoiced. Let's break it down. The first verb, najahat, succeeded, follows our golden rule perfectly. The subject, el-banatu, the girls, is right there after it, so the verb is singular feminine. But now look at the second verb, farihna, they rejoiced. The subject has already been established. The verb now is just referring back to the girls, so it has to be plural to match them. So the golden rule really only applies to that very first verb that introduces the subject.
Of course, like any good language, there are always a few special cases where the rules can bend just a little bit. Let's run through these quickly so you have the complete picture. So, in a few very specific situations, you actually get a choice, which is kind of nice. If your subject is a human plural, like men, or a collective noun, like a people, or even a grammatically feminine noun for something that isn't alive, like the sun, well, in those cases, Arabic grammar allows you to use either a singular masculine or a singular feminine verb. Either one is correct. It's a neat little bit of flexibility.
And finally, this one is a huge one, a really important exception to remember. When your subject is a plural of anything that isn't a human being, we're talking camels, books, mountains, whatever, Arabic grammar treats that whole group as a single feminine thing. So the verb is almost always going to be singular feminine. The camels went becomes dhahabat al-jimalu, using the verb form for she went. It's strange at first, but you see it everywhere.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. We've gone through the core concept, the golden rule that simplifies it all, and the key exceptions. You now have the key to correctly building and understanding Arabic sentences.
So let's do a quick-fire recap. 1. Every verb has a hidden subject inside. 2. If you add an apparent subject right after the verb, that verb snaps back to its singular form. 3. In that case, you only have to match the subject's gender, not its number. 4. This golden rule is for verbal, verb-first sentences. And 5. If you start with the noun in a nominal sentence, then the verb has to match in both number and gender.
And that really brings us to the final, most practical piece of advice. The secret to getting this right every time isn't about memorizing verb charts. It's about changing your focus. Stop staring at the verb and instead find the subject. Just ask yourself, is the subject hidden inside this verb, or is it an apparent noun sitting right after it? The moment you know where the subject is, you'll know exactly which verb form to use, and that is the real key to mastering Arabic sentences.